Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Potomac, Season 6, Reunion Part 3. Y'all, this Part 3 gave everything it was supposed to have gave, and I was here for it. I was thoroughly entertained. I absolutely loved when the husbands came out and when Chris Bassett set the record straight and cleared everybody. I said, I know that's right. And you noticed how it was crickets when he told the truth, right? Everybody had nothing to say then. I said, come through, Chris, and let them know the truth. But let me not jump ahead. Let's just get right on into it because we don't have a minute to spare. We start off this third part with Wendy and Gizelle still going at it. Gizelle is upset with Wendy for making that remark about how she had a tummy tuck and how that didn't keep Jamal. So Gizelle says, the reason why I had a tummy tuck was because I had twins. Like, what are you talking about? I didn't have a tummy tuck for a man. So Wendy claps back and says, and I got my titties done because I had 3 kids, not because of some rumors. So now Mia decides that she wants to jump in and be smart and says, is that why you got your ass done too? So Wendy turns around and says, girl, I surely did because I had nothing back there, all right? My ass was flat. And again, Mia, there was no reason for you to ask that. And I'm glad that Wendy was up front like, yup, that's why I got it done, girl. Like, there was nothing back there. So if you were trying to shade me, it didn't work. Now Andy reads a viewer question about why did Wendy get on Gizelle and Robyn in Williamsburg, but not Ashley, since Ashley was the one who brought the rumor up to Wendy. Wendy says that she likes to go straight to the head and cut it off. And because Gizelle was the one who knew about the rumor and told Ashley, that's why she confronted Gizelle and not Ashley. Now Wendy confronts Robyn about how her and Robyn spoke about this in January and how she felt like Robyn didn't defend her. Robyn says, Wendy, here's the deal. I had no idea what Ashley said to you to get you that upset. And your energy was pointing to me like I did something when I had no idea what was going on. I didn't know what you were talking about, and I thought that it was a new rumor. I didn't know it was still the same old rumor about Eddie cheating. Wendy's not trying to hear anything that's coming out of Robyn's mouth, and she brings out this huge poster board that's this text message conversation between her and Robyn earlier in the year. Everybody's looking like, girl, what is this? Andy's confused. Candiace is cracking up laughing. And then Robyn's like, you really spent money? Like, where did you go to get this? Like, you just want a moment. Now, Wendy, it pains me to be on Gizelle or Robyn's side, but that poster board display was embarrassing. It didn't prove anything, and I felt so bad when Andy looked at you and said, this isn't the evidence that you think it is. I felt like the circus that was last season and last season's reunion with Bindergate, nobody should have had any sort of trick like that up their sleeve. It really reeked of Wendy wanting a moment. And Wendy, like I said in the last 2 recaps for part 1 and part 2, you did a lot. The constant interrupting people, the constant trying to have something slick to say under your breath. It was really cringe to watch. And then with you pulling out these receipts that amounted to nothing, I was like, I'm getting secondhand embarrassment. I really want Wendy to just stop and just relax and rest. Stop with all the extra antics that make you look corny and lame. So Wendy's holding up this poster board and she's yelling at Robyn. She's like, you think that I believe that you and your bestie didn't know anything about this rumor? So now Robyn's trying to speak and then Wendy keeps cutting her off. So now Robyn's like, girl, can you stop cutting me off? Like, let me speak, damn. Like I said, I thought that this was a new rumor. I had no idea we were still talking about the whole Eddie cheating rumors. That's it. That's all. I'm not a liar. I had no idea what Ashley said to you in Williamsburg. That's all I'm trying to say. Robyn keeps reiterating that the blog is not a credible blog and that nobody believed these rumors about Eddie in the first place. Robyn, I'm not buying that you had no idea what Wendy was mad about, because we saw in Williamsburg, before you guys went out to that dinner, you and Gizelle were discussing that same tired rumor the night before that dinner in Williamsburg. And Gizelle said out of her mouth to you, one-on-one, I wonder if the changes in Wendy's personality and body have something to do with the rumors swirling around. And you nodded your head in agreement, okay? So I'm not too sure that you thought that this was a new rumor. I'm sorry, I'm just not. So now Andy interjects and says, it seems like some things were misunderstood between the both of you guys. And now he moves on to another viewer question that's geared towards Gizelle. The viewer wants to know, why didn't Gizelle pull Wendy aside the same way that she did with Robyn? So Gizelle says, I have planned to pull Wendy aside about the rumors, but when I saw how defensive Wendy got at that dinner in Williamsburg, I decided to just leave it alone. So now Wendy says, well, why wouldn't I be defensive? Because at that dinner, you guys were picking apart my body and then saying that I lacked substance. So how would you feel if the same were said to you? And that's a fair point, because at that dinner, Robyn was calling Wendy loose. They were getting on her saying that, Michelle Obama and Oprah would never wear those skimpy, sexy clothes that Wendy was wearing. Gizelle kept saying how Wendy has changed and she's not the same person, and now she's sexy Wendy, and how that's an issue. And I would be upset too if a group of my so-called friends sat around at a table and tried to embarrass me and talk about how I changed my body and they're upset about it. Like, I would feel some sort of way, and I think anybody would feel some sort of way too. It's like, wow, here I am trying to better myself and improve my looks, and y'all got something to say about it? Like, miss me with it. So now Andy goes on to ask Wendy, if Gizelle had pulled her to the side in front of the cameras, would that have been any better? Wendy says that it would have been better had Gizelle pulled her to the side, and how she would have given Gizelle more of a leg to stand on. So here comes Mia inserting herself yet again. She goes on to ask Wendy, well, if the rumors are fake, then why are you so mad? Wendy gets emotional and says, because that's my husband, like that's my sweetheart. Don't talk about Eddie. I said, Mia, please be quiet. And all these ladies know that they would be just as upset if somebody brought some cheating rumors about their husband to the forefront on this show. So again, please miss me with all that. Well, if it's fake, then why are you so upset? Like, because I think it's human nature to be upset hearing some news like that. And there is a blind item going around that one of the Potomac husbands is currently having an affair. The name hasn't been released yet, but people are throwing some guesses around. But I just said, a mess. Andy reads another viewer question directed at Gizelle. And the question is, don't Wendy's kids matter when talking about a fake rumor about their father? So Gizelle comes up with this response, taking no accountability, saying, I think that their kids will be very happy to know that none of us on this couch believe that their father was cheating. I was like, why can't you just apologize to Wendy's kids? How hard is it for you to say, you know what, Wendy, while you and I aren't getting along, I apologize if I hurt your children? Why is that so difficult? The same way Gizelle pressed Wendy about Wendy supposedly giving Grace the stank eye, and she wanted Wendy to apologize to her daughter, why can't Gizelle show the same grace to Wendy's children, who are a lot younger than Gizelle's kids, by the way? Gizelle's girls are 16, 17, and Wendy's kids are like 8, 9, and 2. Like, you can't just give an apology to the kids. I mean, if I were Wendy, I would have said, Gizelle, the same way I apologize to your daughter, even though I didn't even do anything, you can apologize to my kids. We would have sat there for a good hour because I would have gotten an apology for my kids on Gizelle's behalf. Trust and believe that. I would not have let that go. Now Andy reads another viewer question asking Wendy, why does she feel like she and her family are exempt from rumors being brought up on the show? So even though the question is for Wendy, Ashley decides that she needs to interject and say something. Ashley says, everything is fair game, Wendy, and I don't understand why you would expect us to tiptoe around any rumors surrounding you and your family. Wendy says, look, it's not that I feel like I'm exempt. I just feel like this was calculated because this was the same blog that accused Gizelle of paying Jamal $100,000 to be her storyline for last season. Wendy goes on to say, the fact that Gizelle said that she was going to talk about this rumor on camera, it just feels like she was targeting me, and I feel like she did this on purpose. So now Gizelle says, Wendy, you called me, and we were just fine. Like, you were not angry about it at all. So Wendy says, girl, you're a liar. I only spoke to you one time, and we spoke for 1 minute. So on top of her pulling out the poster board a few minutes ago with Robyn, she pulls out her phone records to show that she only spoke to Gizelle for a minute. Andy's looking at her like, again? So he's looking like, girl, what point are you trying to make? So Wendy keeps calling Gizelle a liar. Gizelle says, Wendy, I called you back. We spoke. Like, what are these phone records trying to prove? Andy turns to Wendy and says, I don't think that this means anything. And I said, you can really tell who Andy likes and doesn't care for, because had Gizelle pulled out some props like a poster board or phone records, he would have been laughing and they would have been slapping five and it would have been all good because he likes Gizelle a lot. That is his favorite on the Potomac franchise. And it's evident that he does not care for Wendy that much because the way he was so quick to be like, girl, these receipts, like, they're not proving anything. Like, just a very interesting observation. I said, he wouldn't have had this reaction, I feel, if Karen had brought out some receipts either. He probably would have been laughing too because he also likes Karen. But Wendy, you do yourself no favors when you pull out stale receipts. So Andy, it's obvious that he's just tired of the antics, and he goes on to say, look, we went from the binder to this. Then he says, are there any apologies that anybody wants to make before we move on? So Ashley pipes up and says, Wendy, I just want to say I feel bad if you feel like we were judging you and if things took a turn. Then she apologizes if Wendy feels like they were all attacking her femininity. Wendy receives the apology and now they move on. Y'all know how I feel about Ashley Darby, so I was shocked that she actually could muster up an apology to Wendy. I said, what? I said, Ashley's been reading our comments and she's been watching a few of our channels and she knows what we've been saying. So she said, you know what? Let me try to be the bigger person and get these folks off my back and apologize to Wendy so that they don't come for me even harder. I said, Ashley, I see you from a mile away. So we move on to the Robyn portion, and we can breeze right through this because Robyn did not have a whole lot going on this season, okay? But when does she ever? So Andy starts it off by bringing up a viewer's question about Robyn and her apprehension to say that she has depression. Then Andy brings up Juan's reaction to her depression and then saying that she was unattractive. So Robyn goes on to say that Juan felt really bad and how he's just used to her being the strong one in the relationship. I said, girl, what? Like I told you guys some recaps ago, I reject the strong black woman notion. Not me. I am fragile like a delicate flower. Please don't come over here thinking that I'm going to put a cape on and help save everybody. Because no, I ain't. Black women take time out to rest, recharge, and restore, okay? Because you cannot pour from an empty cup. And that is my PSA for the day. Then Andy brings up how he was really upset to hear that Robyn was blowing off the opportunities with TJ Maxx. He was like, Robyn, like, why? I was just so upset when I saw that episode. Robyn goes on to say that she's killing e-commerce and her decision to not partner up with TJ Maxx and other stores makes the most sense for her. Andy wants to know if her hat money paid for their new house. So she says it paid for our tax debts, paid for the down payment, like, I'm doing well over there. Robyn lets it be known that they've already moved into their new mansion and things are good. So now Andy makes a joke that if he visits her, can he use her bathroom? She's like, yeah, Andy, of course. And we know why he said that, because at the Reasonably Shady party at Gizelle's construction site, Gizelle said that Karen and Wendy couldn't use her bathroom. So now the conversation pivots to Juan and Robyn and if they will be getting married next year. Robyn says, hopefully yes. So now Andy gets really shady and wants to know if any of the ladies believe that Robyn and Juan will get married next year. Everybody's looking real nervous. Of course, Karen is making all those faces because she's always the first to say anything about Robyn and Juan's relationship. So Mia and Gizelle are the only two who raise their hands about Robyn and Juan getting married next year. So Robyn says, look, we've recommitted ourselves to this relationship and we will get married eventually. I said, girl, it went from next year to eventually to hopefully one day, someday. I said, I'm just so tired of hearing about their relationship. I truly am. It's annoying. It's tired. They keep doing this. Will they or won't they? I personally feel like they're doing this so that Robyn can have some sort of storyline to stay on the show. So now Andy gets really shady and he wants to know, why is Michael Darby always saying that Juan and Robyn are not going to get married? Ashley stammering, trying to find an answer.
Tell him, boo-boo kitty. Oh, now you can't speak English.
She's talking about, well, you know, Michael just means that they've been together for such a long time and they live like they're already married. That's why he says that. So now Gizelle says under her breath, child, please. We all know that Michael wants to marry Juan. He wants to take Juan away. So Ashley starts laughing nervously, and then Robyn has a nervous expression on her face because she knows it's the truth too. Andy wants to know if Robyn and Juan are still trying to have a third child, and then Candiace whispers if Juan is shooting the club up. So Robyn says yes, he is shooting the club up, and they're all like, all right. So then Andy's like, so what was the cutoff? And Robyn says, I said that I would be willing to have another baby by 43, and I'm 42. Andy says, well, tick-tock, like, you don't have that much time. Again, y'all know how I feel about Robyn even thinking about having another baby with Juan. I just feel like they have a lot of baggage to work through, and bringing a third baby into the mix, it just seems chaotic to me. Also, I feel like Robyn is only discussing another baby because she looks at it as a potential storyline. Y'all, when people get on these shows, they get addicted to this fame and this money. And people will stop at nothing to secure their spot for the next season. I don't put anything past anybody on The Real Housewives. Like, these ladies get really addicted to all this notoriety and all the fanfare that comes with it. So Andy's like, okay, great. The husbands are coming out next. Everybody take a cute 10-minute break, use the restroom, get a sip of water, and then be back in 10. Child, everybody disperses. Andy gets up from his chair, and we see him walking down the hallway. And who should he see getting ready? It is Nicki Minaj in the flesh, getting all glammed up, and he is ecstatic. So he's like, hey, Nicki, let me just say, we've been filming for quite a few hours. We are all running ragged, and I am so excited for you to take my chair and ask these ladies some questions. So now he wants to know if there's anybody in particular that she's gunning for. So she's like, well, I got my eye on Ashley because I want to know, child, like, why she walk in the room with her breast milk causing trouble talking about somebody else's family. Then she mentions Candiace and how Candiace might feel some type of way if she talks about her music. So Andy says, look, I'm excited for you to do your thing and come out and take over because I can't take sides, but you can. Now, I said, Andy, while you're supposed to be objective, we the viewers know who you favor and who you don't. It's quite obvious that you do not care too much for Wendy or Candiace on this cast, and you like the Green-Eyed Bandits and Karen a whole lot. So while you think you're being fair, we know when you're not. So Andy's like, you look beautiful. I'ma see you in a few. I gotta go back. Andy was smiling from ear to ear when he saw Nicki. You can tell he's really excited because we already know that Nicki is about to get in everybody's asses in this final part, okay? Like, she does not care. She's going to be asking everything that we've truly wanted to know. But we're going to talk about that towards the end of this recap, okay? So now, break time is over. Everybody is back in their seats, and now the husbands are out. Andy's greeting everybody. He says, hey, Eddie, do you get told that you look like Idris Elba? So he's like, yeah, Andy, all the time. You could clearly tell that Eddie was being a good sport about it, and he was just joking around. And so when Gizelle was like, he ain't nobody's Idris Elba under her breath, it was like, girl, shut your hateful self up. You could clearly tell that Eddie was being a good sport about it and having fun. There was no need for that snide remark under your breath. So Andy points out that Juan and Michael couldn't be there today. And I just feel like if all the other ladies' husbands have to show up for the reunion, then there really shouldn't be any exceptions to the rule. So Andy jokes and says, Michael's not here because he has a condition called the reunions. So everybody's laughing. And then Ashley's like, no, he actually is sick, but he won't go to the doctor. Like, I think he has pneumonia. And Andy's kind of like, okay, girl, like, at the end of the day, he is always conveniently ill every time reunion time rolls around. So right before Andy starts grilling the husbands, Candiace's phone starts ringing, and it's Candiace's mom, Mama Dot. Ciao. Andy's like, are we really doing this right now? And he's like, give me the phone. So he starts talking to Miss Dorothy. Andy's like, hi, Miss Dorothy, how are you? Do you have any regrets for how you acted at your daughter's video shoot? So she's stammering, talking about, well, they were all asking me questions, that was it. So Andy's like, okay, pretty much you just got carried away and got a bit too chatty. So she says, yeah, that's it, that's all. So now Andy wants to know if Miss Dorothy has apologized to Chris's face for the nasty things that she said about him at Candiace's video shoot. So she says, no, not yet. Andy presses the matter further, and he goes on to ask her if Chris is owed an apology from her. She's like, yeah, I guess so, that's fine. So Andy's like, oh, you guess so? Like, really? And then Miss Dorothy gets defensive, and she says, Andy, I have no problem apologizing. I will apologize to him to his face, okay? So now Andy's like, okay, Miss Dorothy, we'll talk to you later. And then he hands the phone back to Candiace. I thought it was so funny when Andy said to Candiace, "Your mom seems very excited that we're talking about her." Candiace is honestly nicer than me because I would have let the call go to voicemail and I would have called her back after we were done taping the reunion. I would not have given her the opportunity or the courtesy to have a conversation with Andy Cohen. Girl, you forfeit all those privileges when you showed your behind at my video shoot talking about my husband on national TV. Andy plays a short montage of Gordon and how he was acting this season. So then Andy's asking Gordon how he liked being on Housewives. Gordon says that he really liked it, like he really enjoyed himself. Then Andy reads a viewer question asking if Gordon always acts like that when he has some liquor in him. So Mia says that he does always act like that when he has some alcohol, and then Gordon jokes around and says it's not all the time, just sometimes, like always is an overstatement. I honestly feel like Gordon probably doesn't act all that wild when he has liquor in him. I think that he was only just amping it up because he was on TV and he wanted to show the viewers that he's a good time. Like he's not this old man who doesn't know what's going on. You know what I'm saying? So here's where it really gets good. Andy reads a viewer question directed to Ashley about why did she feel a way about Gordon's behavior, but she's seen her husband act a million times worse and she always gives Michael a pass. So Ashley and all of her delusions step in and she has the nerve to be offended by the question. So she's like, wait a second, what? Let's rewind. Michael has never said or done anything overtly sexual to anybody in this group. I said, girl, what? Come again? I said, does Ashley believe the things that come out of her mouth? Does she really think that we, the audience, forgot about everything that Michael has ever done? Michael was sitting up there squeezing Andrew's butt season 1. He groped one of the cameramen. He was sitting there cheating on Ashley last season, and so on and so forth. But she wants us to believe that Michael has never said or done anything bad. I said, Ashley, you must have lost your damn mind because you tried it. Like I've said, Ashley has a hard time taking accountability, and so does Michael. For her to even sit up there with a straight face and say that Michael's never done anything, I said, girl, you are really out of your mind. Now Andy says, now girl, let's not but say we did, because I didn't forget when your husband Michael said that he wanted to suck Juan's dick. So Robyn's like, oh my gosh, no, he didn't bring this up. Like, Lord have mercy, Jesus. So Ashley's like, well, did Juan have a problem with it? I said, Ashley, come close. Do you hear yourself? And I'm being serious. Like, I'm not trying to be shady or funny, but do you hear the delusions that are coming out of your mouth? Sweetheart, your husband has been very inappropriate with damn near everybody on the cast. I need you to admit it to us and admit it to yourself so that you can be at peace with the truth. And then Ashley says, it seems like Karen perceived Gordon a lot differently than she received Michael. Ashley, again, since season 1, nobody liked your husband. Not Karen, not Ray, not Juan, not Robyn, not Gizelle, not Charisse, not anybody. Nobody liked your husband. Karen says, the reason why I took to Gordon so fast and not to Michael is because Gordon really tried to get to know me as I was getting to know Mia. So now Gizelle hops in the conversation and she starts defending Michael. I said, Gizelle, how much are Ashley and Michael paying you for you to stick up for this clown? Listen, Gordon did do a lot, but I will say it seems like he's a good sport about things. He just wanted to have a good time. Michael, on the other hand, is somebody who doesn't know boundaries. He is constantly doing something inappropriate. Say what you want, but Gordon kept his hands to himself. Then Gordon looks directly in Ashley's face and he says, Ashley, I just want to let you know that I had no intentions of hurting your feelings. I'm very sorry. Please accept my apology. I love how he really killed Ashley with kindness with that apology because it was totally unexpected and she was shocked. Like, she was so speechless. She was like, oh my gosh, thank you, G. Like, I wasn't expecting that. Like, what a sweet apology. I said, your husband could never display the touch of class that Gordon just displayed because Michael has yet to apologize for the nasty things that he said about Candiace and Chris Bassett. I said, Gordon, what a shame. I'm just starting to like you, and you won't even be back next season with your wife. Like, just crazy how that goes. And everybody, let's thank the little birdie that told me the news last week, okay? Now, Andy brings up Juan's absence and why he's never there to support Robyn. Robyn says that since Juan is a basketball coach, he has to do his job to perfection. He just can't take the time off to go on a trip. So now Wendy interrupts and says, well, my husband Eddie, who's very busy, took off time to be on the trip. Robyn says, look, it is hard for a black man to take some days off, especially in a predominantly white industry like being a basketball coach. So Wendy goes on to ask if he ever takes days off. And she's like, so is basketball season like all year round? And then we hear Chris Bassett say, yeah, like college basketball is intense. So Robyn says, yeah, pretty much it's all year. He has to go on recruitment trips. He has to do this and that, the third. He has to go to practices. Like, he's just always busy. And so Andy says, yeah, you know, we see that with Jen Shaw, with her husband, Sharif, on SLC. Robyn says that any wife married to a coach, you sacrifice your personal life greatly. So now we move on to Chris Bassett. Andy wants to know if Chris is still managing Candiace's career. Chris says, y'all made too big a deal about that this season. I'm really a glorified secretary, okay? I just take the phone calls and the emails when Candiace is busy, but I don't manage her career, I don't handle any of her contracts, and I don't take any money. So now Andy wants to know, why did his mother-in-law, Dorothy, roll her eyes when Chris said that she's never paid a bill with his name on it? So Chris says, let me just preface this by saying that I love my mother-in-law, okay? But when she made that comment saying that I had quit my job, he says, I have never quit any job. Second of all, I've never had a one-on-one conversation with Dorothy about my financial status ever. So I don't know where she's getting all this from because she knows nothing about my finances. So now Andy wants to know, what's the status of Chris and Dorothy's relationship now? Candiace says that it was always surface level, but now it's kind of strained, especially with Chris seeing what she was saying about him at her video shoot. Andy goes on to ask Candiace if she's like her mother. Candiace says, in some ways, yes, but then there are a lot of qualities that I don't like about my mom that I don't want to exhibit, but she is a great person overall. I said, okay, girl. So now Andy goes on to ask Chris if Chris had ever met Mia before, because Mia had tweeted while the season was going on that Chris tossed her salad. So Mia says, the tweet was just a jab. I was just saying that because Candiace called me handsome. So now Candiace says, what will possess you to say that my husband tossed your salad when that's obviously not true? So Mia deflects and says, what possessed you to tweet that I was handsome? Candiace says, look, I called you handsome because you were up in the wee hours of the morning searching my tweets like a fan, trying to find some old pictures of my feet with your little friend trying to get dirt on me. That's why I called you handsome. Now Wendy interjects once again with her gripes about Mia saying that Eddie couldn't even look her in the eye when they met. She's like, what does that mean? Then she goes on to say, I don't think I've looked any of the other husbands in the eye. I said, Wendy, can you stop with the dramatics? So she's like, the only eye that I want to look at is my sweetheart Eddie's eye, okay? That's it. So Mia's like, girl, you're just so insecure. Like, please stop. So now Wendy starts yelling, he tossed your salad, he tossed your salad, he tossed your salad. And Candiace says, Wendy, stop giving her a moment. Like, enough already. And I agree with Candiace. I thought that Wendy was doing way too much. I thought that she didn't get her point across as clearly as she wanted to with all that screaming and hollering. So now Andy goes on to ask Eddie, how did Eddie feel when he saw the rumors being brought up on the show? Eddie says, it just showed that there was no regard or concern for me or my children. So now Andy turns to Gizelle and says, Gizelle, do you feel like you owe Eddie an apology? Of course, Gizelle just can't seem to say, I'm sorry. So she's like, no, I don't. I said 1,000,000 times that I don't believe it. Again, the same way you wanted Wendy to apologize to your daughter about some perceived look, it's going to kill you to say I'm sorry to the kids who are a lot younger than your girls. But again, Gizelle just can't help herself. Now we move on to Karen and Ray. Andy's asking Karen about her being the ambassador for Surry County. Karen says that they've brought free Wi-Fi to Surry. So they all clap and like, oh, that's awesome. So now Andy reads a viewer question asking, why did Ray feel the need to promote Karen's LaDom expansion at her Surry County induction? Ray says that Karen doesn't promote herself enough. I said, really, Ray? Karen promotes herself quite well. So anyhow, Karen says, I honestly feel like without Ray by my side, I wouldn't be in Bloomingdale's or Home Shopping Network now. So Chris is like, oh, that's cute and sweet, but how come when I promote my wife and her endeavors, you guys say that it's riding her coattails? Karen says, look, my name's Bennett and I ain't in it. I ain't never said anything. I am happy that you support your wife, okay? Like, I am rooting for you both. So now Gizelle jumps in and says, well, the difference is Ray was the breadwinner and took care of Karen for over 20 years, and the same can't be said about you. Big difference. I said, Gizelle, you have the gall. How dare you? How do you know the dynamics between Chris and Candiace? So Chris sets it off and sets the record straight and says, let me tell you something. When I was dating Candiace, I had my own house. I was paying my mortgage and her rent, okay? Like, don't get it twisted. Then he says, I was not going to pay for an investment property for her and her mother before we were married. So check that. Now everybody's super quiet. Gizelle got nothing to say. I said, oh, it is just so funny when somebody clears y'all with the truth, and because you guys don't want to hear said truth, now nobody got nothing to say. It was all jokes when you guys said that he was broke and living off of Candiace, didn't have a job. Mama Dorothy's paying all the bills. Now when he clears y'all and says, honey, I always had a Cohen. I was paying for her rent. I was paying for my mortgage. I was paying for every damn thing under the sun. And now nobody has anything to say. I said, Chris, you better clear them. I said, Chris, I was here for it. And Candiace had said, I think it was in the season 4 reunion, that Chris comes from money himself. So why everybody wants to play like Chris is broke is beyond me. So Andy's like, thank you so much for that, Chris, but let's get back to Karen in Surry County. Karen says that the tourism department in Surry County has been getting a lot of calls and inquiries about people coming and visiting and how they're trying to open up a bed and breakfast there. Then Andy reads a viewer question about, did Karen have her vow renewal to rub it in Robyn's face? Karen says, look, yes, I did throw some jabs here and there about their relationship, but I did that vow renewal for me and me only. So now Andy quickly brings up the fact that Juan and Michael both don't wear wedding rings. So Robyn says, well, remember that Juan used to play in the NBA, and because of that, he had a lot of bad influence and a lot of bad habits. So because Juan was out there cheating and not wearing his wedding ring, Robyn just eventually sold it. So now Ashley says, Michael has these knots on both of his fingers. I don't know what the term she said for it was, but he has some sort of condition, child, and he has to take some sort of shot for it, so that's why he doesn't wear a wedding ring. I said, Ashley knows she is lying like hell. Andy reads one last viewer question directed towards Ashley about how come Michael is so nasty to Chris when Chris Bassett is very nice to her. So Ashley says, well, really? His gripes are mainly with Candiace, but he keeps it respectful and just talks to Chris. Here's my thing about that. I get really annoyed when I see Chris Bassett being nice to Ashley. I'm very big on loyalty, and I feel like if you know that there is somebody who does not like your spouse or your friend, you should not be going out of your way to say hello to your loved one's enemy. And I don't like how Chris is always trying to get in good with people who don't like his wife. They need to be a united front. So Andy dismisses the husbands. The women take a short break. They all come back. And Andy says, it's been a long night, and I'm going to do something that I've never done before. I need some tequila. So he's like, can somebody bring me some tequila, please? And child, Nicki Minaj comes out with a bottle of tequila, and all the ladies are fanning out. They're like, oh my gosh, you see how Wendy jumped up to the damn sky when she saw Nicki? I was like, oh my gosh, Wendy. So Nicki says, look, I love and respect all y'all. I'm a big fan of the show. They're all like, oh man, we already know she's trying to butter us up because she's about to rip us a new asshole in another minute. So Nicki says, my first question is for Ashley. Ashley, I love seeing you with your boys and being a mom, but it seems like you didn't have a storyline this season. Is that why you were willing to be Gizelle's sidekick and be shady to Wendy? I said, oh my gosh, let me tell you something. These are the questions that I have been dying for Andy to ask. I said, Nicki is about to have these women in tears, and I'm here for it. Ashley looked shook. She was not expecting that. Gizelle was even like, well, damn. So Nicki says, it seems like you came to Williamsburg with your breast milk to do Gizelle's dirty work. So Ashley's stammering and stuttering, and she's like, no, no, no. And then Candiace surprisingly jumps in to defend Ashley. And she's like, well, Nicki, Ashley had just given birth like a few days ago, but she still has to film a show. Like, she still has to come to work. So now Nicki's like, oh no, Candy girl, like, you're not about to sit up here and do this. I said, baby, these women don't know what they just got themselves into, because I already know that Nicki ain't sparing nobody. But child, that's where this part 3 ends. And honey, that preview for that final part, I said, I'm here for it. I damn near hit the floor, because Nicki at one point is going to ask Ashley, girl, what was you attracted to about Michael Darby? I said,
you know what? This is too much.
Ciao. Thank you all for watching my recap. I hope you all enjoyed. And as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.